Good evening. Welcome to the weekend. The day is Friday, the 3rd of February 2023. And we've got you covered on all the stories that have been making headlines today and so much more coming your way. Our team of reporters has been working around the clock just to ensure that you are on the know on matters that affect you within this country across all of 47 counties. Before we get into all the business, here are our top stories. Tonight on Lookup Weekend,
the first accused is sentenced to death in each of the 3 counts.
Frederick Leliman, the first accused in the murder of lawyer Willie Kimani, his client and driver, is sentenced to death as the 3 other convicts got 30, 24 and 20 years imprisonment.
Once a president is retired, the commander is a superintendent of police. That is what that has been the arrangement since President Moi retired, President Kibaki. That has been the arrangement.
After uproar over former President Uhuru Kenyatta's security withdrawal or scale down, we give you a detailed explainer of a retired president's package.
Tulikuta mzazi wetu akiwa kwa nyumba, ameaga akiwa ndani ya hiyo moto.
And 85-year-old woman burnt beyond recognition in Gishuhiro village, Kiambu County, after a suspected gas cylinder explosion. Once more, welcome to the weekend. The hashtag is Lookup Weekend. I am Nancy Nelima, and our sign language interpreter for tonight is Felista Adundo. And let's begin. The first accused in the murder of Willie Kimani, Frederick Leliman, has been sentenced to death. Justice Jesse Lasit made the ruling on Friday, where 3 other accused persons were found guilty of all 3 counts of murder. Willie Kimani was murdered alongside his client and a taxi driver in 2016.
It's a sigh of relief and joy to the families of Willie Kimani, his client Josephat Mwenda, and taxi driver Joseph Moiruri, as Judge Lasit issued the final verdict in the murder case of the 3 after a long drag in the corridors of justice. It is a ruling that comes after a total of 117 exhibits, 46 prosecution witnesses, and 34 defense witnesses were presented in court during hearings. Issuing her ruling, Judge Lasit sentenced Frederick Leliman to death, Stephen Cheburet to 30 years in prison, Sylvia Wanjiku 24 years in prison, while the informant Peter Ngogi received 20 years in prison as punishment for being involved in the murder of the 3.
The first accused is sentenced to death in each of the 3 counts. The death sentence in counts 2 and 3 are held in abeyance. Now, the second accused is sentenced to 30 years imprisonment in each of the 3 counts, with the prison terms running concurrently. The third accused is sentenced to 24 years imprisonment in each of the 3 counts, with the prison terms running concurrently. The fifth accused is sentenced to 20 years imprisonment in each of the 3 counts, with the prison terms running concurrently. In computing the sentences in paragraphs 2, 3, and 4, that is in respect of the second, the third, and the fifth accused, the prison authorities to take into account the period of each of the accused spent in custody during the pendency of this case.
However, the 4 have been given 14 days to appeal on the ruling issued. The bodies of Willie Kimani, his client, and a taxi driver were found after they had been dumped in Oldonyo Sabuk River in Machakos County. Kimani, Mwenda, and their taxi driver Joseph were last seen on 23 June 2016 at a police station. The sentencing has been welcomed by Amnesty International and Law Society of Kenya, saying it is a new dawn and a step to the right direction in dealing with police brutality and extrajudicial killings in the country. Kimani was defending motorbike taxi driver Josephat Mwenda, who had accused policeman Frederick Leliman, one of the 3 officers found guilty, of shooting him for no reason at a traffic stop in 2015. Phoebe Wangombe, Lookuptv.
Thank you, Phoebe, for that report. And staying with the courts, 7 Itumbe DOK teachers are to remain at Nyangusu police station until Monday, pending investigations. The 7 teachers will continue to be detained after the prosecution asked for 2 more days to complete investigations. The teachers were arrested on Wednesday following a video clip that was captured where they allegedly instructed grade 4 2 boys to engage in indecent acts as punishment. Gladys Mashari now reports.
The 7 Itumbe DOK primary school teachers who were arrested for subjecting children to an indecent act will continue to be detained at Nyangusu police station for 2 more days. The teachers are accused of having instructed or coerced 6 minors, all in grade 2, to engage in an indecent act despite sexual acts within the school compound. While making a ruling on application to detain the teachers for 14 days, Ogwembo Court Senior Principal Magistrate Paul Biwott gave the prosecutor 2 days to conclude the investigation. 48-year-old Drusella Mora, 33-year-old Angelica Masia, 38-year-old Catherine Mokeira, 48-year-old William Isoka, 50-year-old Gladys Kwamoka, 47-year-old Evelyn Mora, and 33-year-old Obadiah Nyaribo were arrested on Wednesday after the video was captured by these teachers subjecting 4 boys to the act. TSC had earlier on taken action on the teachers by suspending them, noting that they breached Clause 3 of the 3rd schedule of the TSC Act number 20 of 2012. Gladys Masharia, Lookuptv.
Thank you, Masharia, for that detailed story. Now, Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome has confirmed that the security detail of former President Uhuru Kenyatta has been scaled down. And as Edwin John Mukoro reports, Koome clarified that the changes have only applied on the rank of the security unit. Speaking to the press in Mombasa, Koome dismissed claims that the security unit was entirely withdrawn.
Following speculations that the government withdrew the security detail of former President Uhuru Kenyatta and that of his family members, Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome on Friday while in Mombasa clarified on the changes on the former president's security detail, dismissing claims that the unit was entirely withdrawn.
Among the formations under the Kenya Police Service, it is Presidential Escort Unit, which is headed by an Assistant Inspector General. Under that unit, we have an Office of the President. That is under the Presidential Escort Unit. We have the Office of the President, Office of the Deputy President, providing security to retired presidents. Same case, same arrangement, though we have regional commanders. And you're privy to this.
Koome confirmed that the former head of State Security Unit, which is headed by an officer of the rank of Assistant Inspector General, had been recalled, saying only a sitting head of state is entitled to protection by an officer of the rank of an Assistant Inspector General.
Therefore, Presidential Escort Unit, the commander is an Assistant Inspector General. Then you find the Office of the Deputy President. The commander there for his security is a superintendent. All former or retired presidents, whom we respect very much, and we have a responsibility to ensure they are safe and secure all the time.
Koome has further stated that the retired president is supposed to be protected by units of a lower rank, and former President Uhuru Kenyatta's security detail will be headed by a police superintendent as stipulated by law.
Once a president is retired, the commander is a superintendent of police. That is what we have. That has been the arrangement since President Moi retired, President Kibaki. That has been the arrangement.
The scaling down of Uhuru's security detail comes just months after Ruto took over power, with the Uhuru Kenyatta's camp claiming the move is politically motivated, allegations that Koome has dismissed. Koome said other state officials that worked in the former regime also have their security scaled down, saying the protection of state officials is mostly prioritized for serving government officials as opposed to retired ones.
Inspector General is available if any of our leaders, any of our senior leaders has any issue. As I've stated, ours is to ensure we are fair to every senior citizen, our fellow citizens, whether low or high. Letu ni utumishi kwa wote na utumishi kwa uaminifu.
Adrian John Mukora, Lookuptv.
And staying on that story, the Constitution provides for benefits to retired heads of state, with security being part of the package that a head of state would get when he leaves office. With the scaling down of Uhuru's security, questions now are on the standard procedure have been raised, with people in the political quarter looking at it as a politically motivated move. And that Japhet Koome has laid to rest those allegations. Sami Adika breaks it down on what the law says in regards to a former head of state's retirement package.
On the 13th of September 2022, former President Uhuru Kenyatta ceased to be the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, and President William Ruto took over the reins of power. This reduced the privileges the former head of state was entitled to, including security. Retired presidents are entitled to additional retirement benefits, such as security personnel, under the Presidential Retirement Benefits Act No. 11 of 2003, which regulates retiring president security in Kenya and also states benefits that retired presidents are entitled to. The move to scale down President Kenyatta's security has been done in accordance with the law, which demands that the ministry in charge of national security consults with the former president before periodically certifying the number of security guards required. The act provides that Uhuru is entitled to 2 personal assistants, 4 secretaries, 4 messengers, 4 drivers and 6 bodyguards, including press secretaries and security officers, paid for by the state, with the aides being seconded by the government. The security personnel who are stationed at Kenyatta's urban and rural residents have been scaled down, with many being recalled for redeployment. Further, retired President Kenyatta is entitled to a lump sum payment upon retirement, calculated as 1 year's salary for each term served as president, a monthly pension equal to 80% of the current president's salary, an entertainment allowance, a house allowance, suitable office space with appropriate furniture, 2 new cars replaceable every 3 years, 2 4-wheel drive vehicles, a fuel allowance, an allowance for electricity, water and telephone facilities, full medical and hospital cover, and other benefits outlined in the schedule of the Act. However, scaling down Kenyatta's security detail has raised eyebrows among Kenyans and different political divides, as it comes just days after the former head of state seemed to attack his successor when he called on his fellow Azimio la Umoja leader Kalonzo Musyoka to focus on the task ahead and avoid confrontation. Embakasi East MP Babu Owino sees the move by the government to withdraw security personnel as a political game between former President Kenyatta and his successor President William Ruto to shortchange others politically. Through his Twitter handle, the MP writes, "The duo referring to Uhuru and Ruto shall not hoodwink us this time round. We are wiser. The con is still on. Uhuru wants Baba to confide in him as he confides in Ruto," reads part of his tweet. On the other hand, Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei alleges that the former head of state had more than the required security details, contrary to what the law states, and I quote, "Uhuru had over 120 GSU alert officers 24 hours as president, not inclusive of his close family, his homes, property, but under Presidential Retirement Benefits Act 11 of 2003, he is entitled to 6 police officers, so nothing strange about downscaling the security. It's the law."
Thank you, Samia Dika, for that breakdown. And moving on, former Education Cabinet Secretary, the late Professor George Magoha, will be laid to rest at his rural home in Umiru Yala, Siaya County on 11th of February this year. The family, through former early childhood Principal Secretary of Education, Julius Juan, says the requiem mass for the late professor will be held at St. Consolato Schwan Catholic Church in Westlands, Nairobi, before his remains are transported to Siaya for his final send-off. Our reporter Henry Tende with more.
Preparations for the final send-off of the late Professor George Magoha are in top gear. His family, through former Basic Education Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Julius Juan, says the late professor will be laid to rest on 11th of February this year.
The former Education Cabinet Secretary will be laid to rest at his home in Umiru Nyamninia Yala on February 20, 2023. That is Umiru Village, Nyamninia in Yala sub-county, in Yala division on February 11, 2023.
The final journey will begin with a procession of his remains from the Lee Funeral Home on 8th of February to 8 different destinations to give friends and Kenyans who worked close with him a chance to pay their last respect.
The College of Health Sciences at Kenyatta Hospital, the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Council headquarters, the Nigerian High Commission, St. George's Primary School, the Kenya National Examinations Council on Dennis Prit, State House Girls, the University of Nairobi Graduation Square, and Starehe Boys Center.
On 9th, there will be a requiem mass for the professor in Nairobi.
A requiem mass will be held at the Consolata Shrine in Westlands, starting at 9 a.m. The media is invited to cover this important mass that will celebrate his life and what he always believed in, which was always guided by his deep Catholic faith.
A day after, his body will be taken to his rural home in Siaya.
The body of Professor Magoha will arrive at Township Primary School in Yala at 1 p.m. before a procession leading up to St. Mary's School Yala, St. Mary's High School Yala, and subsequently a holy mass to follow at his home in Umiru in Nyamninia.
Finally, a holy mass for the late professor will be held on February 11th, and the prof will be interred on the same day.
On February 11, 2023, Professor Magoha's funeral mass will take place at Odera Kango University campus in Yala, starting at 10 a.m.
Professor Magoha died from a confirmed cardiac arrest at Nairobi Hospital. His death coming weeks after the death of his younger brother, Richard Magoha, who was laid to rest on Saturday last week. Henry Tende, Lookuptv.
That story by Henry Tende takes us to a very fast break here on the program. There's so much more on the other side, including the Hustler Fund. Have you taken the Hustler Fund loan? Have you paid it back? Those are some of the questions that are coming up, but we'll be giving you that story in details right after this break.
Are you a junior secondary school, a college, a TVET institution, or a university, and you want to advertise your intake? Book now and advertise with us today on both Lookuptv and all our digital platforms. Call us today on 011 0430 158, 011 0430 158, or email us on sales@lookuptv.co.ke.
The Master's Church is back with the mighty TV evangelist Jimmy Macharia. On Lookuptv, keep your ears on the ground.
What's that?
Na hili ndilo ombi langu kubwa kwako. Nahitaji kumuona.
Hii ni riwaya familia mbili kutoka Tanga, Tanzania.
Mama, taishi na hali ya maskini mpaka lini?
Mwanangu, usiseme hivyo. Hakuna mtu aliyeandikiwa kuwa maskini.
Adam!
I'm pregnant.
Na Mombasa, Kenya.
Jamal, sina zungumza na wewe.
You are just a maid tu wewe.
Sawa, mimi ni maid. Lakini nina heshima zangu na wala si dutu. I don't know why I was telling you about this business in the first place. Kujua kama familia. Ama hatuna.
What nomenclature do they give such a beautiful angel missing in heaven? It happens that I like Malik's daughter. I'm not a flirt, I'm a realist.
Kutana naye Daudi Michael, Queen Mwangi, Tekla Mjata, Ruth Maingi na Yusuf Ali. Nira.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Lookuptv. The hashtag is #LookupWeekend. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on Friday flagged off subsidized fertilizers distribution exercise in Mombasa County. The consignment, which is courtesy of partnership between the national government and the private sector, is expected to offer a major boost to farmers at the onset of long rains in March. Abigail Shearer now reports.
President William Ruto has come out to warn Kenyans who default paying the Hustler Fund loan that they risk their accounts being frozen. The president said the state had put strict measures to curb the same.
I wish to state that we now have 18 million Kenyans who have opted to be members of the
1, 2, 3. A hand of applause to His Excellency. Tupige makofi basi tafadhali.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on Friday flagged off a consignment of subsidized fertilizer in Mombasa County. Speaking in Jomvu sub-county, Gachagua called on farmers to take advantage of the subsidized fertilizer, which goes for 3,500 a bag. The move is a mitigation measure to deal with the crisis of food shortage in the country, with government working around the clock to ensure farmers have enough fertilizer in order to boost food security.
We are in discussion with transporters so that the transportation of this commodity is done very efficiently so that farmers can access the fertilizer at a cost of 3,500. The rest of the cost will be borne by government in time for the planting season. I want to tell farmers in the maize planting counties that now the fertilizer is available. And as we speak, in Uasin Gishu, in Nakuru, in Nandi, in Bomet, in Kericho, in Trans Nzoia, in Nakuru, in Narok, subsidized fertilizer at 3,500 is available.
Private sector and the government are working together in this venture. SBL General Manager James Mukono noted that the joint venture between KFA, NCPB, and the company will come in handy during the planting season. On his part, SBL Company Director Joe Kariuki attributed the high price of fertilizers to the Ukraine war.
As you can see now, already we are working in the whole of East Africa. If we are able to produce more than around 3-4 million bags, so we are prepared for that. And we are ready to move on and make sure whatever the government is doing, we fill the gap.
The KFA manager in Naivasha, Priscilla Tanui, has said that the joint partnership with the company has been necessitated by the fast approaching planting season.
We are happy to partner with them so that we may distribute the GPC fertilizer to farmers. It's a new product and we are ready to market, being assisted with the technical team from SPL.
Farmers have been called upon to pick their bags at 3,500 shillings only at all pickup points across the country.
We ask all farmers to take advantage of this intervention by government and purchase the fertilizer and apply to their farms so that we can increase production from barely 10 bags to about 30 bags of maize.
For Lookuptv, my name is Abigail Shira.
At least 800,000 Kenyans are behind payment of the Hustler Fund loans. Speaking during the 50th anniversary of the Police DT Sacco on Friday, President William Ruto said the defaulters were behind schedule in terms of repaying the loan, calling on Kenyans to own up and pay the Hustlers Fund.
President William Ruto has come out to warn Kenyans who default paying the Hustler Fund loan that they risk their accounts being frozen. The president said the state had put strict measures to curb the same.
I wish to state that we now have 18 million Kenyans who have opted to be members of the Hustler Fund. Of those 15 million members, of those 18 million members, 15 million Kenyans have borrowed from the Hustler Fund, which is a really commendable number of Kenyans. Out of the 15 million Kenyans who have borrowed, 14.2 million are regularly servicing their borrowing. 800,000 of them have challenges because they have exceeded the time they were supposed to pay. But we are confident that because the time for them to pay have not lapsed, they will catch up with the other 14.2 million who are servicing their borrowing regularly.
The president also announced that the Hustler Fund will review its 18 million users' borrowing history after every 4 months and award them with a financial grade, which will determine their loan limit based on how they regularly borrow and repay. The president also announced the launch of a new product, Hustler Fund Macro Credit, that will allow SACCOs and group to borrow on behalf of their members.
This end of this month, as I have said, every borrower will be assigned a financial grade. And again, end of this month, again as I promised, we are going to launch the Hustler Fund, now the microcredit, where now SACCOs like the police SACCO can also join and borrow money for your members. People in chamas, people in cooperatives, people in groups can also benefit from the Hustler Fund. That product is going to be launched end of this month.
Speaking while attending the 50th anniversary of the police DT SACCO, the president said the government will support cooperative societies to improve access to credit and nurture the culture saving among Kenyans, and that the government was working towards the introduction of a central liquidity facility and create shared services digital platform to enhance the performance of the sector.
It is an important occasion for us to speak to all people who are saving in the SACCO movement. The anchor of any borrowing is saving. You can only borrow what if you have the culture of saving. And even for us as a country, that is where we are going. We are making sure that we are building the savings culture. We are building the culture to pay our taxes so that we can live within our means and we can avoid our country sliding into the slippery area of huge debts that cannot be paid.
So far, 18 million Kenyans have registered with the Hustler Fund. The Hustler Fund is specifically designed to support small-scale traders in the country. It comprises of 4 products: personal, micro-business, SME, and startup loans. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mwai, for that report. An 85-year-old woman has been burned to death in Kiambu County. Confirming the incident, the family said the woman, Mary Wanjiku Shege, died in the fire as efforts to rescue her were futile. The family has called on the county government to provide the area with firefighting stations.
A property that has been reduced to ashes and sadly with someone in it. An 85-year-old Mary Wanjiku Chege. The family searches through the ashes to see what they can save, but everything has been lost to the fire that razed this house on Thursday night, taking a life with it.
Wakati tulikuwa tunazima moto, ndio tukapata, tulikuwa tunajua mama yetu yako ndani. Lakini sasa vile tulikuwa tunajaribu kuzima moto, stima ilikuwa imeangukia mabati. Sasa ulikuwa unaenda kushika mabati, unasikia hiyo iko na stima. Sasa ikatubidi paka sasa tukae kando, tuangalie tuone mama yetu akaangamia ndani.
Tulijaribu kuisima mpaka saa tatu na nusu hivi, lakini kwa majaliwa ya Mwenyezi Mungu ilipoa. Na harakati hiyo yote tulikuta mzazi wetu akiwa kwa nyumba, ameaga akiwa ndani ya hiyo moto.
Attempts to save her were futile. Efforts to put the fire out bore no fruits due to lack of proper help from the county.
Kwa hivyo tunaomba Kimani wa Matangi na wale mnafanya kazi na wao wote, tafadhali mjaribu kutupea zimamoto.
Jaribu kuzima hiyo moto kwa njia yoyote. Juu hata kijana yake alikuwa amejaribu sana, hata akabomoa pahali mama yake alikuwa amelala, lakini akazidikana juu hiyo stima. Kwanza moto wakati ilishika mpaka stima iliangukia mabati. Sasa mtu alikuwa anashika mabati inampiga. Na tunaweza omba kaunti ya Kiambu, gavana wetu wa Matangi wajaribu kutengeneza mambo ya zimamoto. Juu kama kungekuwa na zimamoto karibu, hiyo moto ingezimika haraka na tujaribu kuokoa mama yetu.
The family says it could have been a gas cylinder explosion.
Hii moto ilisababishwa, wale watoto walikuwa ndani, walisema ni waliakisa gasi ikaripuka. Kwa hivyo gasi ndio ilisababisha hiyo moto.
The body of the deceased now lies in the city mortuary as investigations into the cause of the fire continue. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv.
Moving on Friday, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi hosted Finnish Minister of Economic Affairs, His Excellency Mika Lintilä, and his delegation. The two emphasized the need to expand the bilateral and multilateral ties in trade and commerce as the two countries enjoy a historical and strategic relationship that can only be scaled up for the benefit of the people.
Good combination. So mine is just some serious acid.
Maybe even the cherry.
Excellent. Yeah, so good. Mr. Ambassador, we have 10 companies here, the sector of ICT, education, and companies with us. Our countries have very good relations. And one with the public sector also. We see a lot of potential abilities as we talk on the way around.
Thank you.
So, when you didn't reach, hopefully you do that.
To remind you to come back.
Right.
And that is all we had prepared for you today. But remember, other updates are ongoing on our website, where we are at www.lookuptv.co.ke. Stories that are coming in fast and thick, so you can be sure to be updated across that. And of course, as well as on our social media platforms, where we are at Lookuptv on Twitter, Lookuptv on Facebook, and Lookuptv on our YouTube channel. We appreciate you for watching and keep engaging with us across our social media platforms. I am Nelima, and our sign language interpreter for tonight has been Felista Adundo. Have yourselves a pleasant evening. Good night.
Vera Beauty and Fashion College is focused on being the leading technical and vocational training institute in the region. Our team possesses in-depth knowledge and extensive experience in the industry, offering thorough training in cosmetology, hairdressing, interior design, creative arts, training of trainers, nail technology, and fashion design. With branches in Nairobi, Thika, Meru, Eldoret, and now in Mombasa, our courses ensure that learners are completely equipped with knowledge, competency, and employability skills. Enroll today to be a part of a center of excellence.